everybody's so brainwashed to thinking that who are we going to vote for? Who was in the debates? Instead of, look, any of these people, all these people who are all in the debates, they're all clamoring for war when they don't realize, they think that they're going to go to some bunker somewhere and be protected until the smoke clears and they can come up for air. That everyone who's on that debate stage, they're Nikki Haley and all these.
Nikki Haley for sure. I mean, she was behind Ukraine.
Well, all of these people, but she's probably.
All I know is that the Vivek, he's calling them out, man. I really don't know what he's about, but he's calling them out. He's saying things that should be said.
That language, they live like vermin. Do you believe that is, as your Republican colleague Chris Christie has said, neo-Nazi rhetoric?
This is a classic mainstream media move. Pick some individual phrase of Donald Trump, focus on literally that word without actually interrogating the substance of what's at issue.
The word was chosen for a reason.
We are in the middle of a cultural war in this country.
The word was chosen for a reason.
It's actually describing a series of behaviors. You have Antifa and other related groups that have been burning down cities for the last 3 years in this country.
Would you describe them as vermin?
Wildly violating the rule of law. We have an invasion on our southern border. We have millions of people crossing our southern border. Let's talk about the substance of why we have to recognize that we're not in ordinary times.
Would you use that language yourself?
The vocabulary of the vermin or not is not what's important. Well, I haven't used that language. So you can look at my track record on the campaign trail. I talk about the issues. We all talk about them differently. But what I'm not going to do is play some game of focusing on some word that somebody else said without ignoring entirely the substance of what we're actually talking about. A border crisis of historic proportion. Economic stagnation we haven't seen in 50 years. A national identity crisis and a loss of national pride in the next generation that's potentially existential for this country. Let's talk about our dependence on China. Today we're actually talking about Xi Jinping, picking on Donald Trump's word vermin to talk about that status quo. You know what's vermin? What's running around San Francisco on a given day before Gavin Newsom cleaned it up on a dime to roll out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. If he could do that for Xi Jinping, he could have done it on an ordinary day, and yet we're here sitting talking not about the substance of that, but on one word that Donald Trump said in some speech in Miami. This is what's wrong with the mainstream media. Focus on the substance and let's have an actual policy debate rather than talking to a presidential candidate instead of the policy substance of what's actually going on in the country, picking on some word that Donald Trump said on a certain day and asking me for comment on it. Give me a break.
Well, he's saying things that should be said. They're basically, but the whole thing is he was working with Jim DeWine of Ohio, who was one of the most ruthless COVIDiots of all the governors. He was working with him to profit from the lockdowns. So
yeah, I don't know a lot about Vivek, but there was some really choice things that he said in that last debate.
The Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Well, again, it's all, I mean, he's a smart guy and he's very photogenic and he has good things to say for the camera. But basically, I have to say, like Dr. Shiva said, he's basically a watered down version of Dr. Shiva. And because they couldn't put they're elbowing him out, because he's the only candidate that won't really play the game.